They thought it was their dream home. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl moved into a modest duplex at 328 Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Like many other young couples, they had their struggles, raising 4 daughters, navigating financial difficulties, and making do with what they had. But despite the challenges, they were happy. This house, a humble place close to family, was supposed to be the foundation of their dreams. What they didn't know was that their new home would become the center of one of the most notorious and terrifying hauntings in modern history. A story that would span over a decade and bring them face to face with something that defied logic, something that defied faith. From the outside, the house was unremarkable, a standard duplex in a quiet working-class neighborhood. Jack's parents lived in the adjoining half, offering help when needed. It all seemed perfect on paper. But they overlooked one small detail. The house came with a history. It started subtly. During the first few years, the family noticed strange smells, foul odors that seemed to come out of nowhere. Jack would search the house for a source, but there was nothing. No rotten food, no dead animals, nothing that might explain the stench. Then there were the noises. Footsteps moving through empty rooms, a faint rhythmic tapping on the walls, and disembodied murmurs that seemed to come from the shadows. At first, these incidents were easy to dismiss. After all, the house was old. Surely the noises were just the pipes or the creaking of aging wood. And the smells? Maybe something had gotten into the walls. They could explain it away. But not everything could be explained. As the years passed, whatever plagued the Smurl family grew bolder. It began not just to whisper, but to scream. Deep guttural wails that echoed through the house at night. And then there were the shadowy figures. Janet reported seeing dark silhouettes standing at the foot of her bed, blurring at the edges like smoke. When she turned on the light, they were gone. The activity escalated further in 1977 after the house survived a near-catastrophic flood. Repairs were necessary, and the upheaval seemed to disturb something in the house. Appliances started breaking down without reason. Light fixtures would flicker uncontrollably or explode outright. Scratches appeared on the walls, marring them with marks that no one could explain. And then came the physical attacks. Jack began to wake up covered in scratches and bruises, as if he had been in a fight that he couldn't remember. When he was alone in the house, strange forces would tug at his clothing or push him violently. The same thing began happening to Janet. One particularly horrific encounter involved Janet being pinned against the wall by an unseen force while a dark, oppressive presence filled the room. But the worst of it wasn't the physical abuse. It was the emotional manipulation. The entity or entities seemed to feed not just on fear, but on the family's relationships. Strange voices mimicked family members, sowing mistrust and confusion. Arguments became more frequent, and a darkness seemed to settle between them. As devout Catholics, Jack and Janet turned to their faith. They prayed, they sprinkled holy water around the home, and they invited priests to bless the structure. But no matter what they did, the activity continued. It was as if the house itself had become a prison, and no amount of pleading with God could break the chains. By the early 1980s, the Smurl family was desperate. The haunting had consumed every aspect of their lives, and the neighbors had started to notice too. At night, screams and banging noises could sometimes be heard from outside the house. Visitors reported feeling a heavy, oppressive energy the moment they stepped inside. It was around this time that the family decided to seek outside help from the paranormal world. Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens were already renowned for their work investigating haunted locations and supernatural phenomena. Self-described demonologists, the couple had built a career out of exposing what they believed were otherworldly forces. Among their most famous cases were the Amityville Horror and the Annabelle doll. When they heard about the Smurls' plight, they didn't hesitate to visit. Lorraine Warren, known for her alleged clairvoyant abilities, claimed that she sensed multiple spirits within the home. Some were simply lost souls. Others were malevolent, intentionally tormenting the family, and then there was something darker. Something Lorraine described as inhuman, a demon. The Warrens conducted several investigations into the house. They brought religious artifacts, conducted seances, and worked with priests to perform exorcisms. According to the Warrens, they were able to document various kinds of paranormal activity in the Smurl home. Recordings of chilling growls, photographs of shadowy forms, and testimonies from witnesses outside the family. But the demon didn't leave. Despite their efforts, the entity remained, and if anything, the activity became worse. Jack reported being sexually assaulted by an unseen force. Janet began hearing voices calling her name when no one was around. The Warrens believed that the demon was feeding on the family's fear and despair, growing stronger with each passing day. News of the haunting spread, and soon the Smurl family found themselves at the center of media frenzy. Articles were written, interviews were given, and curious visitors began lurking outside their home. Public opinion was divided. Some believed they were the victims of an unparalleled haunting, while others accused them of fabricating the story for attention or financial gain. But if the Smurls were lying, what did they have to gain? Their lives weren't glamorous. Jack was a factory worker, and Janet was a stay-at-home mom. In fact, their story brought them more hardship than relief. The relentless media attention made it impossible to live normally, and skeptics were cruel in their judgment. The family tried to leave the house, but even that wasn't enough. When they moved into a new home in the late 1980s, some of the phenomena followed them, leading the Warrens to believe that the demon had attached itself to the family, not just the property. By 1989, they finally found peace, or at least a semblance of it. After another round of exorcisms, the activity seemed to taper off. But the damage was done. The haunting had left scars, physical, emotional, and spiritual, that would never fully heal. Today, the Smurl Haunting remains one of the most controversial cases ever investigated. The Warrens stood by their account until their deaths, insisting that the family had genuinely suffered at the hands of a demonic force. On the other hand, skeptics, including some investigators and publications, dismissed the story as a hoax, a desperate attempt to escape financial woes, or a hallucination fueled by stress and superstition. But for Jack and Janet Smurl, none of that mattered. To them, their story wasn't a tale meant to entertain or frighten. It was their life. It was their nightmare. And whether you believe in the paranormal or not, the Smurl story is a chilling reminder of how the unexplained can haunt us, not just in our homes, but in our hearts and minds. Some doors, it seems, can never truly be closed.